Welcome to Beyond the Press Release, a production of Gorecom, in which we speak to small cap executives after important news has come out. With us today, for the first time, happy to have him, Dr. Reid Robison, Chief Medical Officer and Director of Novamind, trades on the CSE under the stock symbol NM. That's Nancy Mary. Now, for those of you new to the company, and that's going to be a lot of you, to understand Novamind, you first have to understand this. Psychedelics are going to go through a parabolic, paradigm-shifting growth curve in the next 5 years because of their ability to treat anxiety, depression, amongst other things. Novamind is a leading, as you can imagine, mental health company specializing in psychedelic medicine. They're building the infrastructure required for a regulated psychedelics industry. Now, where most people use those kind of terms as buzzwords, Novamind's actually delivering. They've got a rapidly expanding network of outpatient mental health clinics, 4 in Utah, another one anticipated in Q2. They facilitated over 20,000 client visits in 2020. That's up over 100%. And revenue in 2019, about $1.9 million. So they're on their way. Here to talk about the company is Dr. Robison. Reid, welcome to the show.
Thanks, George. Glad to be here.
Hey, glad to have you because this is such an amazing and exciting space, and you guys are already off and running. Before we talk about the specifics of the company, let's first talk about, you're a doctor now, obviously. How big of a role are psychedelics going to play in society in the next few years, this decade?
Yeah, I think like you alluded to, it's not just a psychedelics revolution. It's really a mental health revolution. I think as a psychiatrist, I've been waiting for years for breakthrough therapies to come along that can really change the game in terms of treating some of those difficult mental health conditions like treatment-resistant depression, PTSD, where we just haven't had adequate therapeutics in the past.
Why is it psychedelics are making a resurgence now? Because I've done some research, and back in the 50s and 60s, there was considerable research being done exactly for this reason. And then it seems like they got on the bad list just because of the hippie culture. Why are they making a resurgence now?
Yeah, it really was a societal cultural phenomenon back then. While there was very positive data, there was also a lot of fear, and the culture, the political climate at the time, and perhaps a few potentially overzealous individuals led to this perfect storm of scheduling these medicines as banned Schedule 1 illegal drugs that made it very hard to even study in clinical trials, let alone give clinically.
How big of a role do you think? I mean, I've heard anecdotal evidence from a couple of clients, a couple of friends who are microdosing and have seen tremendous changes in their mental health. But that's just me anecdotally. You're a doctor. What kind of impact have you seen on people that excites you about the future of this industry?
Yeah, let's look at a couple examples. One would be PTSD that I mentioned, where it's very hard to treat using traditional talk therapy or medicines we've had available. But along comes this resurgence of psychedelic research, and in particular for PTSD, MDMA-assisted psychotherapy. And if you look at studies done last year led by MAPS, phase 2 studies, over 70% of individuals 6 or 12 months later no longer even met criteria for PTSD. And this was after just 2 or 3 doses of MDMA plus a lot of psychotherapy along with it. So as a psychiatrist, that's extremely exciting because you're not even taking a daily pill, and it's blowing out of the water treatment as usual.
We're going to get to the business in a second, but talk about the science a little bit, and keeping in mind that most people aren't scientists at home. What is it about psychedelics that can help solve the a lot of these mental health issues that traditional medicine from pharmaceutical companies just can't achieve?
Yeah, so the other example I think that will illustrate that is psilocybin. Also, with phase 2 data out for treatment-resistant depression and being studied for things like end-of-life anxiety. And if you look at a treatment-resistant depression study, patients who got just 2 doses of psilocybin plus therapy had lasting changes in depression, sustained months, even a year later. And so why they work so profoundly is a number of reasons. They get the individual unstuck by occasioning this, what you might call a non-ordinary state of consciousness. They get you outside of yourself so you can see the forest from the trees. You have a profound experience connected with things greater than your individual struggle at the time, and that is lasting, especially with the therapy tied to it, where the individual then has a new perspective going forward and the ability to show up in a new way in their own life.
Yeah, and I've seen it firsthand in a couple of people. Obviously, I'm not going to reveal who or what relationship they have to me, whether friends or family, but I've seen it, and it's fantastic. So this is what, now we're going to get to the business of Novamind, but this is what I love about Novamind, that as investors, we have a chance to invest in a company that's already underway in this important industry. But the second part is, it's nice to know that as you're, hopefully generating some wealth out of Novamind, at the same time, that so many people are being helped and are going to be helped. So where does Novamind fit in to this big industry? Because it is a big industry. Where does Novamind fit in?
Yeah, and I like what you said about the mission. It is a purpose-driven mission we're on to help people who are suffering and bring hope and new options. And so Novamind is building the infrastructure. We build clinics, retreats, and conduct research to accelerate the path from where we are here and what we have available now to bringing more and more of these tools to market and making them accessible to the people who need them most. So we have a number of clinics here in Utah, and that is growing and expanding. We also do research in psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy, and in jurisdictions where these medicines are not yet available, we even have therapeutic retreat options. For example, I work with a medicine called ayahuasca internationally as a powerful psychedelic therapeutic.
And I'm glad, it's a perfect segue. You brought in jurisdictions where these are allowed. What does the regulatory legal framework look for right now? Let's talk about the United States and maybe globally if you have a sense for that. But let's talk about US first. Because we know that cannabis went through, state by state legalization, hasn't been federally legalized yet. What's the situation with your industry?
Yeah, it's a great question. And we have ketamine and Spravato available and prescribable now that we give to individuals every day in our clinics. I've been working with ketamine for the past 10 years or more, and it is a powerful psychedelic medicine and therapy accelerator. It has a unique ability to get people to give relief quickly from a severe depressive episode, among other things. And then in 2019, a medicine called Spravato was approved, which is esketamine, or a modified form of ketamine in a nasal spray form. So when that came out, as a psychedelic medicine mental health company, we decided to adopt it wholeheartedly, and we've given over 2,000 doses of it, all covered by the patient's insurance. And the results have been striking. And so coming next down the pipeline, it looks like MDMA-assisted psychotherapy for PTSD will be the next to get approved, whether that's later this year or next year sometime.
Federal doctor, or is that the state of Utah?
That's by the US FDA.
Okay, that's encouraging.
It's on the fast track of the FDA as a breakthrough therapy and entering phase 3 clinical trials, just like psilocybin is. So psilocybin isn't very far behind. I would guess that we'll see an approval by the FDA to prescribe psilocybin for treatment-resistant depression, within the next 1 to 2 years.
So the great thing is, on this side, on the psychedelic side, you're not seeing regulatory pushback, and you're pretty happy with how fast this is all happening.
Yeah, it's been really inspiring to see folks from all different fields and walks of life coming together to make this happen. We're not only seeing the fast track designations and the door open to do the research and get these things on the market, but even the political climate is changing. And in the US, you may have noticed legislation like in Oregon, psilocybin-assisted psychotherapy being approved for certain uses, and like it is what's happening in Canada around the compassionate use of psilocybin for end-of-life anxiety, for example.
Let's talk about your business plan. You've facilitated over 20,000 client visits in 2020. That's up over 100%. You've got clinics in Utah, 4 specifically, another one anticipating Q2. What's the rollout looking for Novamind? Are you going to focus on the Western US, or is there a national rollout plan? How do you guys foresee the company growing to meet this great legislative environment, demand environment for the industry?
Yeah, there is a national rollout plan, and while I can't speak to the timeline of that,
of course,
just yet, one thing I'm really excited about is a model we're rolling out in Park City, Utah, pretty soon, that we've been testing in other clinics that we call a hybrid clinic and retreat model, where individuals can fly in from out of state and receive a course of psychedelic assisted psychotherapy over, say, a week or 2 period, return home, continue on the therapy in between, come back for another course of it when and if needed. And so that's another exciting part of the business model, where these worlds are merging, the clinics and the therapeutic retreats.
And these retreats, I guess, are there to fill that gap where a state or even a country, even if you're from somewhere in the world that hasn't legalized these yet, you can actually fly into these retreats. Correct? Is that the idea?
Yeah, like you could go to Costa Rica, for example, or Peru, and receive legal ayahuasca and therapy. You could go to either the Netherlands or Jamaica and receive psilocybin-assisted psychotherapy. But in the US, we can do that with ketamine right now and Spravato. And before too long, some of these other medicines that are coming down the pipeline that we've been talking about.
The past year, what have you seen in terms of, obviously COVID-19 appears like we're reading it's had significant mental health impact on people of all ages. How timely is the Novamind business, and how big of a problem, just maybe this is going to go a little bit outside the interview, but how big of a lasting problem do you think it's going to be? Because I can only imagine the anxiety so many people are facing right now, fear of catching the virus, fear of dying, economic anxiety, and all that. How long do you see that? Do you see that lasting, and how helpful is Novamind going to be in all that?
Yeah, it's really motivated me to push even harder on this crusade to bring healing tools to people who are suffering, because we're all in this collective struggle together with, like you mentioned, a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, a lot of isolation. And traditionally, before COVID and in other cultures, connection is often the antidote to some of these things, and we've lost a lot of connection with each other. And so I've seen so many clients whose struggle has gotten worse because of the pandemic, and because they've lost some of their supports, and because they worry so much about what's going on in the world. If you look at depression, it's more common than cancer or heart disease. It's a leading cause of disability worldwide. This is pre-pandemic. 1 in 5 to 8 individuals in the US takes an antidepressant every day. And while they're helpful for many, the response rates of these medicines that are available now, the traditional ones, are just too low. Too many people are left suffering, and that's where we have tools available now, and the demand shows that. We've, with Spravato, like I mentioned, giving over 2,000 doses, and that's just increasing. Ketamine, we've given thousands of times to individuals with depression, PTSD, OCD, severe anxiety, and so there is hope on the horizon, even though we are in this this hot mess together.
Well, I sure hope so, right? That's again part of the mission: help people, create shareholder value, but help people along the way. You said something interesting earlier, and I meant to touch on that earlier, so I'm glad you kind of reminded me. You said 1 in 5 people, I think you said, are taking daily pharmaceuticals to try and help, antidepressants. The great thing about ketamine and other psychedelics is that they're not daily, are they?
No, no, they're not. And in a typical protocol with, say, MDMA for PTSD, you'd have 2 or 3 dosing sessions separated by, say, a month between each. And that's when the majority no longer even have PTSD after that.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and with psilocybin, it's the same thing. Ketamine, even if you look at the response rates of ketamine, it's up there. 60 to 70% of individuals will have a significant response in their depression. Mind you, that is more of a temporary relief that ketamine brings, but that's why we practice ketamine-assisted psychotherapy, where we bring the therapy component in and work hard with the client to make those benefits stick.
Do you think psychedelics have passed the acceptance hurdle? Because I'm assuming there must have been a time, maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, where people were saying, psychedelics, no, are you kidding me? That sounds crazy. I'm sure there was some kind of stigma because of, what we've thought about psychedelics. We thought it was just a crazy recreational drug. I know I did up until 2-3 years ago. I thought psychedelics, that's just crazy. Have we gotten over the acceptance hurdle with consumers? Because I guess that question is for consumers and for the medical community. Let's start with consumers first, or patients.
I really think we have. I think while there's a lot of work to be done in the education, the awareness, the accessibility of these tools, I believe we've passed the tipping point, or we're beyond the point of no return, where this much needed train cannot be stopped, because we as a people are asking for it, or demanding for better ways of helping one another. And so I hear this conversation come up all the time. Even my family members send me links about psilocybin, whether it's my parents,
It's fine that they're sending the links to you.
Yeah.
They read, you were right, actually. You're right all this time.
Yeah, it's really been heartwarming to see the reception by, clients and prescribers alike, and therapists for that matter, just embracing these tools to give them as soon as we can.
Well, Doc, I can't wait to see what the impact is of psychedelics on the world. Clearly, I think antidepressants and the traditional pharmaceutical industry has done as well as they can, and obviously they've done some good things. There's no knock there, but it just seems like between psilocybin, ketamine, and MDMA and the things you've been talking about, that we could go to another level. And all of us, there isn't one of us who's watching this or listening to this that has been impacted either directly, or a family member, or friends, associates who are suffering from mental health issues and mental wellness. And if you guys can make a massive dent in that, then that's just gonna be fantastic. I'm gonna leave the last words to you for everyone at home as to what you'd like to make sure they know.
Well, thank you, George, for the questions and the discussion. I've really enjoyed it because we are entering this new era of psychedelic medicine. And at Novamind, we're just so dedicated to advancing the research, bringing these tools to the people, and catalyzing this healing and personal wellness that we all need and deserve. So thank you for having me and listening.
Look, the easy part was having you. Thanks to you and the great team at Novamind. And look, there's so much more we could talk about at Novamind, but I think it's important to get this first one, 30,000 foot view of the industry, the company, what you guys are doing. And, you know, we're going to have you guys on several times in 2021, just digging deeper and deeper. But you make it easy, doctor. And I'm not just saying that as an empty platitude, because this is an exciting industry and you guys are an exciting business. And I got to tell you, I'm 2/3 more excited about what it means to the world. I am a shareholder, I'm an investor, so naturally you want that to be, you know, part of the success. But I think I'm 2/3 excited about what you guys may do in terms of impacting the world.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
For everybody at home, you've been watching or you've been listening by podcast on Spotify, Google, Apple, or your favorite podcast platform, to Dr. Reid Robison. He's Chief Medical Officer and Director at Novamind. The company trades on the CSE under the stock symbol NM, Nancy Mary. Look, we know that this whole industry, this whole construct is new to many of you. It's gaining momentum. We're seeing a lot of great success in the markets. More importantly, we're seeing a lot of great acceptance in the world. But you still got to do your due diligence, especially for those of you who are new to the industry and especially for those of you who are new to Novamind. So 2 things: get to the Agoracom hub for Novamind. Take a look at the profile section because we know there's a lot to absorb. We've kind of broke it down for you in layman's terms and organized fashion as possible. We're not trying to make you experts on psychedelics, but we want you to really understand the industry in Novamind. And then from there, use the link over the Novamind site. A lot of great information there so you can do all your due diligence. And hopefully today you discovered your next great small cap company. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. See you next time.